Hello again, everyone. Welcome to today's fireside chat, MustardHub Voices Behind the Build. Here we talk with people building, backing, and running better workplaces. I'm your host, Curtis Forbes. My guest today is Jenny Leman. Jenny has a background in the health industry, but she pivoted to SMB franchise business operations, and now SaaS operations have stolen her heart. She credits her journey with CareerPlug with allowing her to follow all of her loves and talents. She balances being a mom to 4 kids, leading CareerPlug as President and EOS Integrator, and sitting on a nonprofit board that is focused on making tech safer for youth. In her spare time, you can find Jenny cheering her kids on at their activities and experimenting with AI as a curious enthusiast, as we all are. Welcome, Jenny. I'm really happy to have you here.
Thanks. Good to see you, Curtis.
So you are a fellow Texan, also here in Austin. Hook 'em horns.
All day long.
Before we dive in, I'd really love to hear a little bit about the nonprofit organization that you work with, making safer tech for youth. Tell me a little bit about that. What is the organization? How long have you been working with them?
So I have 4 preteens/teens that are all in that age where I became very passionate and interested about online safety for youth in a very quick period of time because it became very relevant in our family lives. This organization is run by a founder who's actually been a very strong advocate for child tech safety, both tech-wise, but also with legislation. So Chris McKenna started Protect Young Eyes to help with curriculum and all sorts of, enablement to empower a young person to make better digital choices, but also advocates obviously for, safe things with legislation. I had been watching him for a while. I became very interested in the technology side of this and reached out to him and said, you're doing great things. How can I help? And he basically said, I need an integrator. So he had a really incredible vision for sort of a whole project he's going to spend the next 5 years on, and needed somebody to come in and help him hone his vision and then take steps to move it forward. And I was like, that would be exciting for me. I would be able to contribute to something that means a lot to me, but also that I can bring value in. So that's my involvement with Protect Young Eyes.
I love, what's the name of it again?
Protect Young Eyes.
Protect Young Eyes. I love that. I have 4 also. My two oldest are in their 20s, so went through that phase, and it can be terrifying, to say the least. But so health to SMB franchise ops to SaaS ops to leadership is, it's quite the journey. I'd love to hear a little bit about your career path. How did you get started in the health industry, and then what led you to the helm of CareerPlug?
Health started in college. I actually got a full ride to the University of Texas for percussion.
Percussion?
Didn't pay a dime my first year of college. My dad was a percussionist.
Wow. Okay. So we share that music background.
We share the music background. And I was following directly in his footsteps. He was a percussion performance major at UT. So I was kind of like this legacy, new grad who was coming in. I got all the scholarships and got through my first year and got diagnosed with Crohn's disease as a freshman in college. So became very interested in the health side because of the role that nutrition and food played in me stabilizing my body. I broke my dad's heart, changed majors, and finished with my Bachelor of Science in Nutrition, and then started directly in hospitals and healthcare. So it came because of my own health journey, and I just got very passionate about it. Let go of one love for another interest. And it was a very interesting first few years in the medical world. I will say that I didn't have a ton of direct clinical experience because I got put right into, probably 1 year, 2 years in, I got put right into a situation I think very much influences my career path so far. So I'm trying to pull all the threads through, which was I worked for the state of Texas Department of Aging and Disability, which
Okay.
if a medical facility accepts Medicaid and Medicare funds, they're held to federal standards of care, which means the state of Texas can come in and audit or survey a healthcare facility at any hour of the day, any day of the week, and levy major fines to providers or healthcare organizations that are not upholding the federal standards of care. So within 2 years of graduating college, I went from a hospital to looking at CEOs of giant healthcare companies in a boardroom and handing them $1 to $5 million fines as a 22 or 23-year-old. So I think that gave me some rapid fire experience in dealing with executives and learning how to show up in a room, even
I'd
though
say so.
I felt
I'd
very
say so.
unqualified.
Yeah, wow, I definitely would say so. And so then what brought you to CareerPlug from there?
From there, I stayed with the healthcare journey and got dabbled into management a little bit when I broke off from working at the state. And about 10 years into my career, I had twins. And so becoming a mom, I took probably 6 months off. And when I was ready to come back after 6 months, I decided my brain just wasn't into the nutrition anymore. My heart and my passion had moved on. And I had become very interested in business operations overall,
Hmm.
and ended up looking for basically a very flexible part-time role as a brand new mom of 6-month-old twins, and met a franchisee who had 4 locations of her franchise and asked me to come in and operate all 4 from basically a floating operational manager level and make them perform as one. Like operationally, process, everything should look and feel the same, like same heartbeat basically across
Okay.
all 4 locations. And I fell in love with business ops at that point.
That's awesome. So at CareerPlug, you're not just president, you're also an EOS integrator. So tell us a little bit about EOS. What is it? What does an EOS integrator do? Um, let's start there.
EOS is a great framework, an entrepreneurial operating system. It's a great framework for a business that has a really strong vision from a visionary that needs to be honed in order to grow and scale. I would say, I see it work well between 2 or 3 million
Mhm.
uh, and 20, 25 million. That's a really good sweet spot in between about 15 employees to now CareerPlug's at 105 employees. And we're starting to feel that we're a little too big for some of the small processes of EOS, but it has been transformational
Wow.
in how it's helped us operate, become really in tune with the vision, and deploy the vision across 11 teams and 100 people. I don't know that we would have been able to do it without the EOS framework. So the integrator sits next to the visionary. I'm not a visionary. Don't ever ask me to found a company, but I'll support a visionary all day long. And
Okay.
basically, here's the vision, understands it, clarifies it, and then knows how to turn that around and transform the way the company is actually making it come to fruition. And EOS is great because it's a proven playbook and process to how to
Yeah.
make that happen. So as integrator, I didn't have to come up with all the plumbing and the bones. I just had to deploy what they teach really well. So usually there's an implementer that is basically a franchisee of EOS that you hire to coach your executive team to adopt it. So we had one of those for 2 years. She was incredible. She taught me a lot of really valuable stuff. And then we graduate from being handheld essentially to maintaining and operating EOS without that help.
I love that. So I've previously spoken with one of your colleagues, Chris Igo. Uh, While some of your audience may have heard a little bit of this before, love for you to tell us a little bit about CareerPlug. What is CareerPlug? What does CareerPlug do?
This is my favorite topic right now, especially because who we are and what we're doing is changing.
Yeah.
Uh, I'll tell
Yeah.
you more about why that's an important statement today. CareerPlug began as a hiring software, essentially to help very small business owners hire the right people. Our founder has an incredible vision. It's evolved beautifully over time. The original partnership for CareerPlug was State Farm. So he helped State Farm provide CareerPlug as the recommended vendor for all agents to use to hire. So we actually allowed State Farm to customize their hiring process, all of their lingo, their scorecards, their assessments. And that was such a success, and he was profitable from day one, that we realized that there's a model here with a parent-child hierarchy where we go to market and we help small businesses in that frame, that structure, deploy this, right, and use this across all of their network. So it turned from State Farm into something we promote to franchising. And today it has now evolved, literally today, into becoming hiring and employee retention software. We're going beyond the first moment of you made your right hire to how are you going to keep this person?
Yeah.
And knowing that the role of the manager in that organization is critical. Culture lives and dies, I think, through the manager role. And I think the employee experience is just dramatically centered in the hands of that manager. So we're very interested in influencing that.
I think that's awesome. I mean, moving from, I think what a lot of people might see as a very transactional relationship with your customers to more of an ongoing partnership with them, right? Through the entire life cycle of their employment practices. Makes a ton of sense. So tell us a little bit more about the clients that you help. Understood it started with State Farm and you've kind of expanded this to franchise networks. Why do they choose CareerPlug?
We decided that there was this essentially gap. Franchising is really a playbook, right? It's you buy a business out of a box in some aspects, where the franchisor gives you everything but one playbook, which is hiring and employee retention. And because of joint employer laws, many franchisors really want to stay at least a healthy, if not very healthy, distance from anything related to joint employer. Right. So that was our opportunity. We are the missing chapter of their playbook that really helps them with this slightly risky, in a legal way, topic of how to operate their business, how to hire, and how to engage with their employees. We're not HR consulting. We are not compliance, right? And we do not replace an employment attorney in their world of experts to keep around, but we want to be expert partners in that way. It's really hard to run a business. You're doing 13 things and wearing that many hats every single day. So to keep up with the changing landscapes of what applicants expect, what the job boards expect, what is attractive even to job seekers is it's too much. Yeah. So we want to play that role, and we want to bring our value through the structure of a partnership where we are presented essentially as the preferred vendor through the franchisor or the membership corporate office to their member base, as this is the vetted and best solution in the market for employees, hiring and employee retention.
I love that. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. Joint employer vicarious liability are the chief concerns, I think, for the corporate office when it comes to HR and people problems, I think, in general. And having a software system that can help navigate that somewhat for the franchisees without crossing those boundaries is like you said. I mean, it's an enormous gap to fill, right? And so tell me about some of the people problems that you're obsessed with solving for these organizations when it comes to hiring and retaining the right talent. You listed just a few of them. I want to hear a little bit more detail on some of these things.
You want to dive in the hire side or the retention side first?
I mean, we got all the time in the world. Let's do both.
All right, we'll start at the top of the funnel, because really what I see it hiring being a funnel, and then I see employee retention being like an inverted funnel right under it. What's important is to first really understand your core values. I don't want any small business owner to go out there and begin hiring without being really clear on who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Not just what problem are they trying to solve in their industry, but who are they as a business owner? Why did they get into that business or that industry, and what drives them to honestly deal with all the troubles and all the frustrating parts of becoming a small business owner?
Yeah.
What dream did they have, right? So if a business owner can get really clear on that, and honestly, I have an interest in productizing that for our clients, then we can say, okay, now it's time to go team up and staff. And one of the most important things, and the workforce is very fluid, and different generations are coming up into the workforce and have very different expectations and desires for the role that their employer should play in their life. So it's about reading the landscape, being clear on who you are as a business and your big why, and deploying that through hiring and employee retention. That's really should be the foundation of it. And our founders' vision really supports that. And I'm also probably most proud of the way that we model this. I don't want to, preach something as best practice to our clients, but not be able to say that we walk the walk and talk the talk. And this is an area where I'll say that I will go toe to toe with any other business with how we embed our core values through every element of the employee experience. And it's a good way for us to test it too.
It's easy for small business owners over time to get disconnected from that why, because of the million different hats that they're wearing on a day-to-day basis and the fires that they're putting out. And today they're CFO and also janitor and also admin support and also answering the phones, and sometimes they lose those things. And when they have to go hire somebody, reconnecting themselves with that why, I can see being, a huge part of finding that right person.
You can't find the right person if you don't know your why and you don't know what values you need that person to be able to honestly represent on your behalf.
Right.
Every employee is a billboard for your business.
Right.
So making sure they can embody what represents your values is table stakes before you ever start to add to your team, I think.
So, and on the retention side.
So really the hiring process, core values should be vetted through the entire thing. And there's a lot of best practice and there's constant learning of how to be attractive to job seekers, how to display your employer branding and culture in a job listing. That's really hard to do. And there's a lot of noise out there, right? But once you successfully do that, and CareerPlug wants to be your experts and partners in doing that, and you get applicants, yes, you should eventually be hiring that right person based on values, based on knowing exactly what role you need them to play in the organization and not having a very vague idea of what looks like success for them. Be really clear. And then once you make that hire, the next challenge begins. So this is where I've spent the last 2 years with our founder really thinking through what is it like as a small business owner to feel really excited about making that hire and then knowing, oh, okay, I just created a whole new job for myself with planning for onboarding, creating everything for onboarding, and then actually showing up as an employer that you can have your integrity behind. I made a good experience for that employee. And I have reaped the fruits of doing so because this person has not only stayed with my organization and I've had to not backfill them, but they've grown in their skill set and in their role within my organization and are providing 3 times the value this year that they were last year because they stayed.
How much has EOS influenced this perspective of yours?
Good question.
I hear some of the things
It's in there for sure.
you're right. So as I listen to you, some of these things I hear when we talk about, finding the right people for the right seats,
It's a lot in how you operate your business.
Yeah.
How you hire and how you engage with your employees is huge in terms of your business success, your trajectory, your growth.
Right.
So
And to your
Yes,
comment
all
earlier,
6 pieces of the pie that are really important with EOS,
yeah.
I think sort of come through in different ways with hiring and employee retention.
And to your comment earlier about, the manager and their role in creating, the that type of culture and that type of experience for the employees. I mean, if that's the person that you're hiring,
Yeah.
I mean, if you haven't done the homework to make sure that they embody those values, right? Emotionally, cognitively, all those things, you can expect then it to translate downstream.
No, I think in many ways you need to trust that manager is probably the most critical hire you will make because they will influence your culture more than you will. They will be involved in more of the small but really meaningful moments as your business scales. So, yeah, getting that person right is really critical. And I often think that, um, as an entrepreneur, what I've seen is you hire 3 or 4, maybe 5 individual contributors to your business, but you eventually get to some point where you can no longer do it all.
Mhm.
And there is this moment where if you can make the right hire for a manager and entrust your people to another human besides yourself, such a relief can come to that business owner. And for the first time, they'll experience being in that role as entrepreneur and not being the only boss in the house, but knowing they can step away for either a vacation or not have to be there 24/7 and trust that what they've taught this person and how this person embodies the values will not skip a beat.
Yeah.
That is invaluable for a business owner.
Oh yeah. I mean, and just listening to that, I mean, it definitely resonates. I spent years as a small business owner. I mean, almost 20 years. I had run multiple small businesses, and that's gospel. I mean, everything that you were just saying is gospel. So, tell me a little bit about performance management. I mean, how often do you see kinds of misalignment when it comes to values and culture get in the way of clients, CareerPlug's customers, their organizational growth and their progress, right? Um, I'd love to hear you kind of speak on how some of that performance management might go, against core value demonstration, or so forth.
I don't believe the two are separable from each other. True performance management, I believe, is a combination of demonstrating our core values or the organization's core values in the way that's intended,
Mhm.
constant evaluation of that, and performing in their role with the measure of success that you have given them. So, uh, you have to do both. You have to measure both. And performance management holistically should encapsulate core values and role performance.
And without those measurable outcomes, I mean, every piece plays its own critical role, and without one of them,
Mhm.
the whole thing doesn't work.
Agreed.
Um, you ever see clients try to fix a tech, an ops, a marketing, a sales problem, but it's really a people problem stemming from some of this inconsistent, behavior, whether it's onboarding or, um, you know, issues with measuring these outcomes, core values, et cetera?
I'm going to make a very bold hypothesis claim.
Let's do it. I'm going to splice this and share it all over LinkedIn.
I hope I'm halfway right. I'll say I have a gut intuition that 90% of performance problems are core value related. Bottom line.
I think we got to frame that quote. You might be right about that.
I think I am.
I think you might be. So when you're helping clients to hire and retain their top talent and solve their people problems, tell me about the patterns that you notice and how teams either succeed or stumble when putting some of these recommendations into practice.
Do you mean from the perspective of our clients, small business owners, or CareerPlug
Yeah.
internally?
Well, I mean, you can use CareerPlug, I guess, as some perspective, but I think in general with small business owners.
It's how you operationalize core values, how they show up in a daily way, and how you discuss issues. I think going back to EOS, the IDS framework, right? The struggle I think that I see happen with our clients is both on a capacity side, because so many small business owners are dealing with a slew of competing priorities in terms of importance and urgence. Do you whack-a-mole the fire, the customer who's in the lobby screaming, or do you whack-a-mole the fact that you suspect that there might be a hole in your cash transactions and money could be siphoned out of the business? Like, which one do you try to go investigate first? So constant evaluation of priorities is going to always compete against dealing with, I think, some of these root issues. So that's one hard thing that I don't know how to solve about being a small business owner, just the nature of entrepreneurship and running a small business.
I think that comes with it.
It comes with it. There is no easy answer. I wish I could solve it for all of our clients. But I think what we also see is the importance of being willing to part with somebody if core values are not being demonstrated and if the performance isn't there at 90 days. At 90 days, you should have seen enough to know, yep, yay or nay. In CareerPlug, we've had to challenge ourselves to get much more clear on this, because it's really easy to get to 90 days and know, oh, this isn't it. This isn't it. But to have urgency of running the business, goals that are staring you down in the face, and knowing how expensive and time consuming it is to go back to the drawing board with a vacant role and the hiring process. The easy button is to say, oh, we'll just get through it. We'll work on it. That is more expensive in the long run. And we've learned our lessons the hard way with that.
Yeah, 100%.
The right path is much harder, which is part with that person, call it at day 90, and be willing to go back and invest. Your long-term situation at that point will be much better off. But it's super painful in the short term, which is going back to like getting that hire right and taking the time to vet it. You need more than just a pulse to represent your business and in front of your customers. You need to make sure both skills and competencies and values are all locked in. And it's hard.
It is hard. I mean, it's maybe easily could be a stretch, but addressed definitely with strong leadership, right? They can recognize, the right, the wrong, the good, the bad, the values, the not, right, the patterns, and who have that motivation, I think, to change them, right?
I see one more tripwire that I didn't mention that I'm thinking of now, which is in the very first 7 days of someone's employment, small business owners and many businesses, we've done it included, miss an opportunity to set extremely clear expectations of that employee. What do you need from them? And ask them, what do you need from me as your employer, right?
Yeah.
It is a mutual relationship. And defining success and spending almost agonizing time defining success up front with scenarios and examples, anything you can give, so that that person at any point in their first week, first 90 days, can think back to that conversation and say, does this define success in that business owner's eyes? And if not, what would? If you can't set clear expectations, then the train's gonna go off the tracks, and it's gonna be really hard to get it back on.
Could definitely see that going downhill quickly, and I think I can chalk that up to some of the mistakes I've made early on too. I think sometimes having that experience of what happens when you don't do that, makes you that better leader eventually, and
the hard way.
Yeah, you have to learn the hard way. So, among some of these organizations that maybe you admire most, not necessarily just those that you work with, but certainly can be part of the group here, I'd love to hear some common traces stand out when they really, really get it right when it comes to culture, retain the right people. It sounds like CareerPlug is sort of in that bag. Can give me some common traits, maybe not necessarily just those that are able to define success. What do you see in their DNA?
I love this question. I see a really clear vision, crystal clear values, and the willingness to keep trying until you get it right. Nobody's going to get it right out of
Might
the
be
gate.
one of the most important things there is just your constant willingness to fix what's not
Try
right.
again.
To keep.
Try again. And constant tweaks. Our current product leader has coined the term iterate within our organization, specifically for how we approach product, right? But it's become sort of like a giggle word because he says it so often that we're all like, yeah, I know what you're going to say, exactly what we know you're going to say. But there's some truth to that with operating a business. And I see operations, and this is when I told you my career sort of started to shift towards this, is I saw business operations as sort of this dial board of a whole bunch of movements you could make and tweaks you could do. You could either, pull a dial all the way to the right, or you could slightly tweak this and slightly tweak that. And I became very interested in balancing all of these factors and the impact it would make on a business. And I think of every business as almost like a dial board, where I think of my dad's old, the receiver that was under the
Yes,
big box
this
TV.
is what I was picturing in my head, something like that.
You could tell what generation I'm from. And then he had his big old speakers. And that receiver had about 1 million dials. And I always sat there and tried to think, like, what could all these things actually be useful for? But he would work on it and he would get his sound just right, and I think back to that visual when I think about operating a business. And every business is going to have a different health status of that profile.
Yeah.
What parts are suffering and what parts are just hitting the mark perfectly that you should not touch. Knowing that is hard too.
Yeah. So CareerPlug is at its core, it is a technology platform. So you notice any surprising ways that companies are leveraging software to change maybe how they recruit and hire, ground their core values, foster culture? What do you see happening right now in the technology space and the movement there with
It's
regard to this stuff we're talking about?
Technology is in a wild, fast lane right now.
Oh my God.
Um,
You said it.
it's it's interesting to watch what's happening, especially on the recruiting and employee retention side. I have a love for technology overall, but this last 12 months with the advancement and the speed at which we're all interacting with AI is wild, but also reality, right? So this is infecting I say infecting as if it's a virus. It is here to stay. It has a good side and a bad side, or light and dark, right? But it's infiltrating, I think, almost in every industry. So I've taken on a role of really watching what it's doing across the board, specifically in recruiting and employee retention. And it's a really sticky place, honestly, because when you're dealing with humans, the lives of people, of which have applied to your job, they're trying to secure income and have a career, and you have the choice of whether or not to hand off some of that process to any degree to a large language model or be under the influence of a large language model. There's a lot to think through there and vet out. State laws, like our legislative process, is dramatically behind on guiding this. And the laws dealing with AI and how it, in the recruiting space is a patchwork quilt that is challenging
Yeah.
to navigate. You
To
can
say
tell
the
that
least.
there's a million thoughts I have in my head. On the employee retention side, I think it's so much more simplified, because at that point, the relationship has been secured. Now you just need to execute a healthy relationship and make it successful. And a lot of the legal risk of AI drops off after that moment of hire. So I am so much more interested and less worried about investing in AI on the post-hire side.
Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, I think that policy is usually behind
Oh, always.
innovation. And you used interesting words to describe light. You used light and dark instead of good and bad, which I love, by the way, and I'm going to steal. Um, do you think a lot of these organizations are making the right choices when selecting the tech and the software they use in the talent acquisition, and throughout the employee life cycle? Are there things they could do differently to actually drive results? Good, better?
I think we're all in rapid learning and experimentation, to be honest. I don't know if I can say yet if we're all going the right direction. The interest small business owners have in AI in the recruiting side is a lot about um, really shortening the screening or vetting period, right? Either during apply or right after apply to decide, should I spend time, my precious time, and interview this person? What's interesting about inserting AI into that to try to skip that middle step of vetting that person through a phone screen is what's most traditional, right?
Mhm.
Is that if I was a small business owner, the first 30 seconds I spend interacting with somebody is a read of their energy, their communication, their like I'm evaluating a million things in the first 30 seconds
Yeah,
of interacting with somebody. So I don't want to hand that off to anybody.
right. Yeah.
However, I can see the other side of it, which is I'm wearing 13 hats. There's only so many minutes of it in a day. There's 70 applicants. I need to get 70 down to 5. I need help to find the cream of the crop, the top 5, and I want to go talk to the top 5. And they're willing to hand off that funnel. I get that too. So I don't
Yeah.
know all the right answers, but I know it's a constant evaluation for all of us right now on the tech side and on the small business owner side.
Speaking about retention, though, specifically, one of the things that I've noticed, as a small business owner, when it comes to retention, I think a lot of small business owners don't necessarily even know how to separate signals from noise. And there's a lot of data that they can get. And that's not necessarily hard to get, but they don't necessarily know what they want or how to use it, right, to produce outcomes that they're looking for. And so I'm kind of curious if you ever notice a disconnect between what you see people tracking, what actually matters.
I don't know that I see people tracking the right things on a regular. We're primarily SMB. It's probably very different in mid-market and enterprise.
100%.
But I would be willing to bet most business owners, if I say, what is your average employee tenure? They would be wildly guessing. They might have a feeling that it's somewhere in a ballpark, but they don't have any actual concrete way to measure that. What is your 90-day employee retention rate? Oh, 7 out of 10, 70. Like they can loosely guess, but the patterns change over time. And just going back to my dials, if we change one dial, I want to know what that impact was.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to see we went from 70% to 75% very quickly, and we changed one thing. Look at the difference
So
that made.
on that note, then, let's assume you have a dashboard that can reveal one key people signal inside an organization. What insight do you want to surface? Let's say you have governance now over all the small businesses on CareerPlug's platform, and you get to design this dashboard with a single signal. What is that going to look like? You can
That's a
pick two if you had to.
I was gonna say that's really hard. Um, I think I would pick one on like the lag measure side, which is average employee tenure
Okay.
in months or years. And I would pick one on the lead measure side, which is a pulsing of employee sentiment through various questions that's spread out over time.
Yeah.
Where I can sort of see patterns and trending, whether it's something everybody, even Gen Alpha, can relate with, which is the scale from happy face to sad face,
100%.
and see the different emotions changing over time against different questions. We've built the beginnings of this, and it's one of my favorite things to think about and brainstorm on. But when I use that version of a product right now for my team, I have 7 direct reports. I know where everybody's baseline is. I know that if you are an optimist, a pessimist, or a realist, just based on the first few weeks of you responding to our product pulse. Then I watch and I see what changes happen. And then I can sense and respond in real time, because I say, okay, Jim doesn't ever answer that question like that. Something's going on. And I can get something that allows me to go have what we're calling manager moments. Give the manager a signal and let them go take an action and have a moment. And find Jim and say, hey, can we go to lunch today? I just want to check on you. And give Jim the chance to tell you that something's going on in their life. How do you support them? Like, care about them as a human first, right?
Yeah.
And then figure out, or is it something that as an employer I can tweak, I can adjust? Maybe Jim has an unmet need, or maybe somebody's being a jerk on the team.
Right.
And it's bringing his performance down. I want to know about that, but I need to create a safe space for Jim to say that to me. But give me a signal to tell me I need to at least go check in with Jim.
As companies get more deliberate, I think, about how they support their people, like this, like some of the other things that we talked about. How do you see your own work adapting or evolving?
My personal work?
Well, CareerPlug obviously is going to have or want to have a stake in all of those things. So, how do you see your work with CareerPlug sort of evolving to meet what's going on?
I want to be extremely valuable in the moment to managers who need to show up in those moments, empower them to know what's going on and have an idea of even how to respond, and to make sure the business owners can tell, okay, my manager's got it. They're responding to these moments and it's not all on me. I want to own that for every single small business owner.
First of all, I love that. You said you're not a visionary, but that's a very good vision to have.
It's representing our current vision, so I can't claim it, but I've the more I think about this and the more I interact with our customers, I can put myself in their shoes. I have become more passionate about this than I ever thought I would be. And it's something that I find a lot of purpose in, and it's taken on legs that I didn't expect. But this is, honestly, I'll tell you I'll make another big claim. I think this is how the world has changed over time. Work, everybody's going to have to work, right? Like, that is a part of our lives, and hopefully you love it. Hopefully you don't hate it. Where you become a better human, hopefully, through your work experience. You will only become a better human through your work experience if you have a manager who cares about you and who's pushing you to your potential. That's how the world has changed outside of the family life.
Yeah. I mean, I think arguably now we're all in the business of relationships.
Sure.
And it's probably, swinging that much harder in that direction as more things become, automated, right? As technology takes over so much, I think as human beings, we're sort of craving that side of it to feel like we have some purpose and some connection and some belonging,
Yeah.
and purpose, et cetera. So,
Every hour that we're spending away from our families or away from our personal life, whether it's, it can look any number of ways. But if you're spending those precious hours of your one given life at work, they should be
better love it.
valuable. They should be
Yeah.
changing you in a positive way, and they should be contributing to good in the world.
Yeah. So business leader comes to you, you're sitting next to him on a plane, you all are about to, deplane, walk off the jetway, and they turn around right after they get their bag and just ask you for only one piece of advice on how they can truly get it right when it comes to growing, to retaining their team. And you only have an opportunity to tell them one thing before they walk in the other direction. What is that thing? Besides, don't screw it up.
I would say every manager deserves the tools to be great, and every employee deserves a great manager. Make sure that's happening.
I love that. I love that.
I can't take
Jenny,
credit for that one.
but that is a good one, whoever said it.
Our CEO and founder, Clint, has put those together, and I love it. That's what I would tell that one business owner.
Well, we need to make sure we chat with Clint. Thank you so much, Jenny. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. Hook 'em horns again.
Horns.
Make sure that that's right. Show some love.
Always.
And thank you all for tuning in to MustardHub Voices Behind the Build. Please share this fireside chat with a friend or colleague, and check us out at mustardhub.com to see how we help companies become destinations for workplace happiness and turn culture into a competitive edge. Until next time, thank you.